I saw that when you were talking about the, I guess since the pandemic, the number of deaths have, I guess, skyrocketed. And I also see that you talked about reducing the number of preventable deaths. What do you mean by that?
Sure. So I also have a degree. I have a master's in public health and epidemiology, which I think pairs really well with pathology. Pathology being the study of disease and the diagnosis of disease, including death, right, in individuals. And then epidemiology broadens that out, right, and studies it on a large population-based level. And that's why I went to Tulane for med school, and they had a dual degree program. And the reason I enrolled in it is because I knew whatever specialty I went into, I wanted to do more than just focusing on those one-on-one interactions and do something for whatever community I was living in. So what does that mean? Reducing the number of preventable deaths. So the saying we have in forensics is we study the death of others or the dead to serve the living. And so if we're doing our job right, we should be able to pick up trends in real time of what's causing harm and death in our community. And then you summate those individual data points, and then you look for targeted interventions. Now, we're not going to do the interventions, but you pair with other people that will. So whether that's other people within our Department of Public Health or other departments within public health, and say, but the nice thing is, so prior to that, my employer was not a public health department, but they're using our data real time. So I don't even have to make that effort right now. We just do our job, and they instantly analyze it and go out in the streets, go out with the unhoused community, change their efforts when it comes to overdoses. They have some really impressive outreach programs, including we had someone come from another division in public health, and they were talking, what do they do with all this overdose data we get them? They have a whole texting system. It's all about harm reduction, and it's great where, we test all the drugs in-house, we test the decedent's blood and urine, and we can see in real time what's killing people. And so if there's a new fentanyl is being delivered in a new way, which happened recently where it's looking like cocaine. Well, imagine someone that's trying to use cocaine gets fentanyl and dies. So they have this text system where they text people and like, hey, be on the lookout for this, so people know it's on their radar. And that's saving lives in real time, right? So I think the foolish approach is to say, don't do drugs because people are going to do drugs, right?
Yeah.
And so the wiser approach is to say, hey, how can we encourage people to somehow use them a little more safely?
Correct.
And they're doing that now. Trying to think some other examples. Any atypical cases that come, any honestly infectious disease cases that are rare, we're usually, people don't know this, we are very much in communication with the CDC there's a whole list of reportable diseases. And they're important. And if you come across one, like I had a case in New Mexico of hantavirus, and it was a young kid playing with his brother, wound up dying from hantavirus. And so, he was kind of in a religious community. So the pastor called me up and really concerned, like, what can I do? And I told him, it comes from mouse droppings. So be sure to just clean thoroughly, make sure there's no space for mice to get in. He had a little brother. They were, I was telling them signs and symptoms to watch out for and who to communicate with if he develops fevers, different things. And that's real-time feedback, right? For a whole community of kids who are playing in the same area. Well, instead of one death, that could have been 10 deaths, right?
Right.
But those 2 conversations, and they cleaned everything up, and they were very aware that this virus they probably hadn't even heard about, potentially save some lives.
That's good. What is it called again?
Hantavirus. It's a pulmonary infection.